happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and a great weekend so far. My name is Don Terrell. I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say stories come in all shades. And I highlight people of color in diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I'm just aesthetically crazy about and love so much. Again, I want to welcome you to the show. You know the drill. Jump in, say, hey, let me know where you're tuning in from so I can give you the props that you deserve. Mr. Kenny D, appreciate you showing up, my man. And being a part of the show. Yes, we are going to have to reconnect for sure. But definitely appreciate you tuning in from LinkedIn. Some more LinkedIn people, let me know because the last couple of weeks, LinkedIn's been kind of acting a little jiggy with me. So I can see that I'm broadcasting on LinkedIn, so I know LinkedIn's working all right now. But definitely want to hear from you for sure. Miss, I don't know. I'm not going to say Mr. or Mrs. It's just Evasive Blue. Justin coming in from Atlanta. All right, Atlanta fans coming in. I appreciate you tuning in, Justin, for sure. Sugarland, Texas. You're right down the street from me there, Kenny. So we have no excuse not to connect because you're right down the road from me. So I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you guys are super excited about this episode as I am because I've been looking forward to it for a while. But of course, you know, we got get a little of the housekeeping and stuff out the way. Make sure that you join into the Facebook group community, become a part of it. I definitely want you to get connected. Hop on over to facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motions because it's growing. And so I definitely want you to get plugged in, sharing industry news. Great conversation, a lot of fun. So just hop on over and, you know, join me there for sure. What else there? Also, want to give a big shout out to our sponsor for today. We appreciate so much DG Graphics. They do all the graphics, overlays, animations. They make this show look as awesome as it does. And if you're a business or a brand that's looking to level up your brand design or start a show of your own, you definitely want to reach out to them and give them a shout because they can definitely help you out. That was a good little rhyme there. So I appreciate that, being a part of it for sure. Also, like I said, we broadcast live to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. But I do always kind of highly encourage everybody to connect with me on all my social channels here. You can find me, be a part, shoot me an email, let me know what you think of the show, anything you might want to see, any guests that you might want me to try and get on. Definitely want to hear from you for sure as well. Like I said, we do broadcast to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, but I always highly suggest that people hop on over to my YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you're notified when great new episodes and great new content becomes available. Thumbs up, comment on the episodes, and you can check out all the other past great episodes that we've had so far. As you can see, we've had a lot of great guests on the show. And so I would definitely don't want you to miss out on that as well. Also, if you are one of those ones that would love to support the show, help me to continue bringing the show to you and leveling up the show design. Hey, I love a great cup of coffee. Who doesn't love coffee? BuyMeACupOfCoffee.com/Don Terrell. You can support the show. There's a $5 membership. Or you can just pay out the year for $5 membership for a month $5 a month, or you can support out the year at $50. There'll definitely be some private content in there for just the membership viewers. But like I said, would love for you to support the show and help me to continue doing what I do. What else is there? Like I said, we're having some great conversation. May H. Appreciate you tuning in. Another Atlantean. We got a lot of Atlanta people, so they must be, you know, connected with the guests. So I appreciate you tuning in again, Mr. Evasive. Yes, Justin, appreciate that you clarifying that. Appreciate that. Atlanta people here. Yep, Atlanta turning out today. Appreciate you, Mr. Raul. Positive vibrations, brother. Irie, positive from Jamaica. Appreciate you as always tuning in and supporting the show. Jamil, great to have you here, my man. Tuning in and showing up. Oh, appreciate you from Birmingham, right next to Atlanta. Like I said, we're getting a lot of that area in, so I can appreciate that, Jamil. Appreciate you tuning in. Thank you, and thank you for supporting the show. Like I said, I hope everybody is super excited. Again, we're going to have a great, fun conversation and just dive into my next guest journey. Um, I think that is pretty much all the little housekeeping stuff. Remember, continue to comment, continue to engage with the show because my guest definitely wants to hear from you, and we definitely want the engagement. So share. Make sure you also, yes, make sure that you share with your community. Let people know that the show is going on live because I'm definitely trying to, like I said, level up the show and really get it out to as many people as possible. So the more you share, the more you care, the more you share. I appreciate that. So with that, I think we can get ready to dive into this episode. My next guest is a storyboard artist at Dreamworks Animation with credits on Floyd County Productions Archer. If you ever seen Archer, that was a funny show. I really did like Archer. And Hit Monkey. Titmouse's The Legend of Vox Machina, Crystal Dynamics, Marvel Avengers, and many others. Hailing from the U.S. Virgin Islands, he has operated as a professional storyboard artist in broadcast animation, AAA game development, and more since graduating from SCAD Atlanta in 2014 with a BFA in Sequential Art. We're going to dive into that, Sequential Art. Please, everybody, help me welcome my next guest and friend, Mr. Akiel Guzman.
Hey guys.
Akiel. All right. May 8th. We're going to throw that in. May 8th. And I've actually had a lot of SCAD graduates, SCAD students, current and past SCAD graduates on the show. So SCAD is really doing some amazing things with getting creators out there. And we're going to dive a little into that as well. But how are you doing, Akiel? I appreciate you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, feel good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, the honor is all mine, all mine. So I'm curious, what was it about storyboard art when you were younger that kind of caught you, or was it later on in your journey that you decided storyboard art was the thing that you, or sequential art, as it's kind of known, that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I actually didn't really know about storyboarding until I was in college. Um, so I also went to SCAD and uh, I studied sequential art, which is basically, I mean, storyboard is underneath the sequential art banner, but I was mainly focused on comics and comic books. So it wasn't until I started studying there that I became aware of storyboarding, and that's what got me interested in it.
Okay. So sequential art, what else falls under sequential art? When you say when sequential art, I kind of automatically think storyboard, but I guess comic book art and the like would kind of fall under it as well. But are there other things that fall under sequential art? Oh, I hope he looks like he froze. Are you still with me, Akil? Uh, Let me message him because it looks like he froze. It's funny. Like I said, we do the pre-prep and everything works fine. But then when you get into the live, that's when things start happening. Uh, let's see if he's still with me. I'm messaging him in the chat. Oh, evidently he dropped out, so he should be calling back in. I'm gonna jump over to this scene, throw in some comments while we're waiting for him to log back in. Let me message him. While I'm waiting, like I said, yeah, there he is. All right, throw him back in. And just like that, he's
Sorry.
back, people. Now, hey, I was just telling him we have the pre prep and everything works fine. And then when you get into the
As soon as you
live,
jump in here, yeah, something always.
that's when things start happening. But no, I was saying, are there other things that fall under the umbrella of sequential art?
I would say it's mostly just, at least from my experience, just comics and storyboarding. I mean, basically any art in a sequence. It can even be like, the instruction manuals you see in, like, when you're building your IKEA furniture, or when you get on an airplane, the instructions to sort of like, you know all the safety
Safety
precautions you need to
instructions.
take.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so mostly stuff like that, I would say.
Awesome. Awesome. So, when you were younger, was it just general art that you loved doing until you figured out, you went when you went to SCAD and then decided to get into storyboard art and stuff like that? What was the type of kind of art and things that you enjoyed doing when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely into comics when I was younger. I didn't really understand it as much at the time, but the spirit of it was there. Um, I don't know. I was really into dinosaurs when I was a kid, so I used to draw those a lot. But yeah, mostly just like yeah, tiny comics.
That's so awesome. So, like I said, in your bio, you're from the U.S. Virgin Islands. When did you come to the states? Over here to the states. Were you still younger when you came over to the
I
states, or were a
was
little older?
I was about like 13, 14, so I
Okay.
was a little older. Yeah.
Okay. So up until that point, I mean, U.S. Virgin Islands still part of the U.S. So I'm pretty sure comics were and animation was, still kind of, I wouldn't say big there, but readily available as opposed to just in other countries.
Mhm.
Was I mean, was your thought, or did you even have that thought when you were kind of that age that this was what you were going to get into and go to school at for?
No, I had no idea. I just knew I liked to draw as a kid, and I didn't. I think a lot of people, when they're pretty young, they don't realize that you can kind of do that as a career. It's something you enjoy watching, and digesting, but it's not something you think, oh, I can, I can make a living
Yeah, and
doing this.
it amazes me that I guess everybody, you know, thought like says the same thing. You know, they never imagined that somebody made a living doing, you know, animation, cartoons, storyboard.
Hmm.
That people actually made a living doing that, for
Yeah.
sure. So, how were your parents in nurturing kind of your skill or talent, or did they even think that well that you were serious about this kind of going through it?
Yeah, I mean, my parents are always very supportive of what I wanted to do. My mom, in particular, she used to be an artist herself when she
Okay.
was younger, so they've always had my back on in whatever I wanted to pursue, and still true to this day. So.
So they weren't the kind of parents that said, well, you might want to have a backup plan or something like that. Uh,
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like, that's definitely being safe about things, being an artist is not like, in certain avenues it's kind of lucrative, but sometimes it's like feast or famine. So
Yeah,
I
yeah. Well,
it's
I mean, you didn't have
understandable.
it, but you didn't have an eye, or you didn't have a notion of going to learn because, like I said, I've talked to some that they started school doing you know biology or something totally different than kind or business, something totally different than what they're now doing. I guess because, like I said, they're you know kind of like their parents were pretty much like most parents. They're thinking, can do people make a living doing this and really
Mhm.
survive doing this and having something safe to
Yeah.
fall back on? Like I said, is a good thing that your parents, still supported you and still encouraged you through the whole journey of it. So, what was it? Um, well, did you? So obviously, did you settle in Atlanta when you moved here, or were you living somewhere else in the country?
No, yeah, we pretty much settled in Atlanta when we got here.
Okay, so SCAD was the school that you just saw. Oh, they were
Yeah.
there, or did you think about any other attending any other school?
No, not really. So I mean, I went to high school in Atlanta, and I took an art class there. And during one of those classes, we had uh basically someone that was from SCAD that came to sort of advertise the school and say, like, you should go here if you're interested in pursuing art as a career. And that's pretty much what got me interested in going to the school.
Okay. Well, I'm curious because now we're starting to see a lot of online schools crop up and just
Mhm.
online learning. Do you think, and I guess it depends on the person, did it benefit you more going to on campus like SCAD as opposed to if you went to say or took some of these online schools just remotely?
I think it depends. I would say, uh, at least for me, what made SCAD a good opportunity for me to go there is the connections. I would say it's important to network as much as create art. I think that's another part of the equation that most people don't think about when they think about pursuing a career in art. Is
Yeah,
that you need to know, it's who you know, basically.
yeah,
So I would say, at least for me, being there physically helped with that a ton. um, that's pretty much how I got my first job, was physically being at the school, attending things in person.
yeah.
And it's still possible virtually. It's just a little bit trickier.
Yeah, yeah, and I
But
know cost. Well, like I said, I think it benefits in the one area of where if you live in another country or something like that, where
mhm,
schools like SCAD or other art institutes and other schools aren't kind of readily available, and you're having to kind of saves you from moving or coming all the way over here to go to school. Plus the cost. It's a
Mhm.
little bit cheaper than going to
Yeah.
a school and having to pay for on campus, that type of thing. Uh,
Mhm.
so a few more comments in on the chat there. Miss Evasive love dinosaurs. So another dinosaur, another dinosaur. I don't know why, but when you said that, I was thinking of. I don't know if you've seen it. Um, Mitchell versus the Machines.
Yes. Yeah.
And the little
The
kid calling
kid.
up
Yeah.
people. Do you want to talk about dinosaurs?
That kid would. Yeah. I mean, I was basically that kid when I was younger.
Oh man, another one. He graduated in 2014.
Mhm.
Evasive. So, yeah, a few years ago, but doing quite well. And she is attending uh, SCAD last year. She had Professor Ingham in 202. So evidently a SCAD alum. May May H. Yeah, I'm helping out with 3 so far. She must have had another comment up here. We got a lot of SCAD alum here. So SCAD, like I said, SCAD has really brought out a lot of talented artists. What do you think the biggest thing that you, or kind of the biggest lesson, or the biggest thing you kind of took away from going to SCAD, outside of learning, of course, your skill in that?
I would say uh, definitely, like I mentioned before, it's important to make connections while you're there. Um, at least for me, when I first attended, I in my head I was like, I'll just keep my head down and just do my work
Yeah,
and then graduate. But I really I love that I got the chance to like foster really strong important relationships while I was there,
yeah,
um, as part of that college experience. Um, so I would say definitely, making friends, making connections was
yeah,
a big part of my school experience there. And also, uh, just focus on fundamentals. Like, just I didn't, you don't start in your major, you start at the basics,
yeah,
and that really honed my skills for when I was ready to, actually jump into my major. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah. I think a
yeah,
lot
just
of people don't realize it is a relatively small industry, and people tend to know each other.
mhm,
And oh, I went to school with such and such, or I worked with such and such a studio, and that's how kind of people move around from project to project because they built these relationships and friendships with
mhm.
people that are may go on to be producers and directors on things, and then oh, I have this friend storyboard artist that I want to bring onto a project. So it really
Mhm.
is important building those relationships. And we kind of talked a little bit about it, on before the show, about just being introverted and extroverted. I mean, obviously, there's a certain amount of extroversion that you got to get past um, when, like I said, building these relationships. Was that, I mean, an exceedingly hard thing to do, or was it relatively easy to kind of fall into, just naturally building friendships with other people there?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as long as you have something in common, and for a lot of us, it was art. So I think that was definitely the hardest hurdle to get over is like actually sparking conversations. But I think once you get past that, um, everything's a lot easier.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
realize that you have a lot more in common than you thought you did, and yeah, I mean, that's how these things happen, how these friendships form.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Mr. Michael, I appreciate you finally catching a
Hey,
live show there, little brother, for sure. Super, super talented ZBrush artist. Definitely got to have him back on for sure. Uh, and before we move into it, let's Miss Evasive. Like I said, she's obviously going through and getting ready to come out. Has a question for you. Any advice for people going, I guess, going through currently?
um, yeah, I mean, like I said before, just make sure that you're connecting with your fellow classmates, even your professors. Um, and it's kind of hard to, I don't know what your major is, but if it's,
Drop in your major, Evasive. Let us know what your major is, so we can comment a little more on that. Uh, he has another comment as well. Which like I said, you're jumping into my questions there, Evasive. But hey, I'm happy about it. How did you land your job with Floyd County?
so I was working at Crystal Dynamics in San Francisco at the time, and Floyd County didn't have a website uh, until I would say a couple years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of tricky to find them to get into contact with them if you didn't know someone personally that worked there.
Yeah.
Um, but I have another friend named Marissa. She is part of a group called Asifa South, and she's very active on Facebook, and she posted a link to I think one of their job openings or basically an email chain to get into contact with someone there, and that's I applied there, and that's how I got the job
Yeah.
basically.
So was that a company that you were kind of actively wanting to work for and do work for?
Yeah, like I said, I was at the time I was in San Francisco, and I was thinking about coming back home to
Okay.
Atlanta.
Yeah,
And
because Floyd
that,
County is in Atlanta,
mhm,
in the Atlanta area. Like I said, we had I don't know if you knew him at the time. Um, I had Joshua Upshaw on the
yes.
show, and he worked for Floyd County doing some great work as well. Um,
Mhm,
so for you, was it because I know coming out of school, going into a studio can be intimidating. For the person that just this is their first kind of big studio you know,
mhm,
uh, opportunity. Was that kind of a tough transition or a little challenging transition, or do you feel like SCAD really kind of prepared you enough to hit the ground running where you didn't feel like you didn't belong there or didn't have, kind of the
mhm.
technical know how to keep up with, like I said, Archer type stuff and the things that the studios were really doing?
Yeah, actually, my first job out of college didn't have anything to do with sequential art. It was a concept art job for a company called Wet Design in here in LA. So I graduated and I moved out there to work with them, and it wasn't as big of a shock as I thought it would be. I mean, mostly because you know, being at SCAD helped me,
Yeah,
prepare me for being around a bunch of artists all the time. So no, it wasn't. I mean, even though it didn't have anything to do with like what I studied at school, being at SCAD still prepared me for being out there in the real world and getting an actual job. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So do you feel like you're past that point of I forget the word, just feeling like imposter syndrome. That's the word I wanted to use. Do you feel like now you've gotten past the kind of feeling of imposter syndrome, or does it still kind of happen when you go to, even like I said, when you went to DreamWorks? Was that kind
Mhm.
of a thing that you thought about or dealt with? I mean, by that time you had already worked at, Floyd County and some of the other Titmouse and some of the other studios. Did you feel like you were kind of had those moments of imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I personally, I don't think that ever goes away. Like, as long as there's something new that you feel like you could still, trip and fall or mess up in any kind of way, like I do think that imposter syndrome will always come into play sometimes. Um, and personally, I think that's good. It's good to. I don't think it's a good feeling to be, you know, super confident. I'm trying to find the words, but
Yeah,
it feels weird to go somewhere and kind of expect to know exactly what you're doing. Because I think you never stop learning, and
yeah,
part of learning is messing up sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So up until this point, I mean, what's been, do you feel, kind of the best piece of advice that somebody's given you, um, to kind of help serve you? That served you along the way to this point.
I would say my lead at Crystal Dynamics, his name is Jeff Adams. Um, One day I've been working there for a couple months, but I think he at a certain point he wanted my drawings to be rougher so I could move a little quicker, and uh, he told me that drawings are cheap, and I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. I thought he meant like, oh, like you know, there's like monetary value attached to these. I don't know what that means, but basically, at least in terms of storyboarding, it
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Like you don't want to spend a lot of time
time.
doing
Yeah,
something that you're just gonna throw away anyway, or that doesn't work with the rest of what you're doing.
yeah,
So basically, yeah, just drawings are cheap. You can scribble something on a napkin and like,
yeah.
it still has its certain value
I guess
in
the
certain
whole point
places.
is getting down the the dynamic of the shot, whether it's, the camera angle, the position of the character. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
interesting. I've seen like some of the Pixar storyboards, and they look like scratch, but I guess it gets the point across of, what they're trying to get within that scene. Um,
yeah,
and that's the importance, I guess, of a storyboard. Can you convey the importance of what the scene is supposed to look like?
yeah. Basically, the drawing is cheap, but the idea behind it is more important.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, let's see. Evasive. Hopefully, he answered your question there, with how, he approached Floyd County and got his position there. 2D animation. So that's what he's taking, 2D animation.
Gotcha.
Uh, so it should be, pretty interesting once you get out. We're going to have to connect there, Evasive, for sure, and, touch base. Yes, did you know Professor Jenna Zona?
Yeah, I do. She used to work at Floyd County. She worked. We both work on Hit Monkey together.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I mean, you're starting to. I mean, what's been kind of, you know, the biggest joy for you in doing what you're doing so far? Um, is it the connections? Is it the companies that you've gotten a chance to work for? The stories that they've connect, or that you've worked on? What's been kind of the thing that made you say, "Wow, I'm working on this," and just really excited about it?
Um, I would say a little bit of everything. Usually when I join a new project, like I'll at least know one person on the team, or I'll be familiar with the IP a little bit, or if I'm not, I'm excited to learn more about it. Um, so yeah, just a little bit of everything, like you know, the excitement of like joining something new and seeing. seeing something go from just words on a page to like, fully fleshed out animation, it's always super exciting.
Yeah, I would think that is the most satisfying thing, seeing an idea that somebody has, and you're seeing it going through the whole process until the final, the final piece comes out is amazing. And we're gonna, with that point, we're gonna take a look at some of Akiel's work because he does some amazing work for sure. Let's take a look just at some of his design work. And I love, like I said, just you know a lot of the stuff that you've done. I mean, do you work in one? Is there a specific program that you enjoy working? Do you still enjoy doing paper and pencil, or do you have you now moved from paper and pencil to just strictly digital type of work?
I do a little bit of everything. The first piece that you showed, that was pencil that I scanned and colored in Photoshop. Um, so yeah, I like to bounce around just to. I think each medium offers something different, and I like them all.
Awesome. Like I said, just some awesome work here that you can see. He spends a lot of time really fleshing out the design and the look. I really like this piece for some reason. This one had a lot of action. I like.
Mm.
Is there any, I mean, has there been, say, a project that it took you a minute to kind of that you maybe struggled with a little, and that it took you a minute to kind of wrap your head around and come up with exactly what the director or your director was kind of looking for?
Um, Not exactly. Um, I mean that I would say that's a good thing. I haven't been thrown into something that completely took me off guard. Um, but there's always like little things. The
Yeah.
last piece of freelance I took, uh, there was a giant crowd. I would say like you know 80-ish people, like minimum in there. So just trying to figure out how to block the most important people in that scene,
Yeah.
making sure you're not breaking the 180 and whatnot. So yeah, that was one that was very very tricky to do.
Yeah. So I, as a storyboard artist, I mean, it kind of really goes hand in hand, parallel with comic book artists. Was is that something that you kind of think about getting off into as well, comic book art and creating, comic book art?
Um, Not as much. I still do from time to time, but it's not something that I think I would really jump into at the moment. It's always there, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think yeah, right now I'm just focusing on storyboarding.
Uh, let's. Oh, let me jump over to this thing. Uh, Mr. Evasive. Uh, of course he does social media, and I will be throwing all of that stuff up towards the end. So you definitely want to make sure that you hang out because I'll be putting all his contact info uh, up so that you can get connected with him and reach out. And yes, it is some awesome work there. What do
Thanks.
you think it takes to make a great storyboard artist? I mean, what are the traits that you feel like are the best traits that make a storyboard artist?
Uh, Storyboarding it takes like a multitude of different skills to take into consideration when boarding. You have to be good at anatomy, perspective, lighting, composition, just general draftsmanship. So a lot of that like in one package, I would say. Um,
So what
and
was the
some
one thing that you kind of worked on that had to work you had to work on a little bit harder than the others that, like I said, the one trait, like you said, anatomy, perspective. I know a lot of people have trouble with those things. What was the one thing that gave you a little bit of challenge?
uh, on the technical side, I would say probably perspective. Um, it's always a tricky thing to do. Um, Sometimes you can cheat perspective if you really need to, but it's always like picking and choosing the right moments to do that. I would say on the other side of things, storyboarding is storytelling. So I think sometimes you need to be able to write and understand writing to be able to storyboard, since the drawings are just a means to an end. The
Yeah,
drawings are only there to serve the story. So if you're drawing and you're not understanding what you're drawing and why you're drawing it, then that does not make a good storyboard.
yeah, 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 for sure. Um, so with that, I want to make sure that you guys get that bomb that he dropped. Perspective. You got to understand what you're doing. That was a good nugget. So I always like to highlight nuggets that are dropped. Understand what it is that you're doing and creating, for sure. Where do you kind of see yourself, you know, progressing from here? Right, of course, right now you're at DreamWorks, and that's a dream job. But what's kind of your have you thought a little further ahead of what you would might want to do, the direction you might want to go?
A little bit. I think for now, I mean, I basically just want to tell my own stories. If that means that I'll be directing or show running in the future, then that's great. But I think for right now, just being able to do what I'm doing now is is pretty great.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And you know, and to that point, are there any particular? I mean, you've done a wide variety of stuff and worked on a wide variety of projects. Is there any particular type that you enjoy more than others, or what would your type of projects and stories kind of be about? And
yeah, I right now I'm focusing on the the story that I'm writing now is more of a fantasy based. So anything with like swords and magic, I definitely like that kind of stuff. Lean towards that. Um, and I also like cinematic stuff, things that why are we why are we positioning the camera this way? Could it be interesting? You know,
yeah,
can we break the rules from time to time for a specific purpose? Stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. No. Uh, Miss May has a question for you. Is a background or degree in animation beneficial for when you are applying for story jobs in animation?
Um, Probably. A lot of boarders I know have studied animation. Um, I think it's great to have that animation background, but I would say for being a storyboard artist, like being able to tell the story through your drawings is like the most important thing that people look at when
Yeah,
they're looking at your stuff. So
yeah,
you can have flashy boards, but if they're not saying anything, then it's like, oh, that's great, but this is basically just like a animation demo reel.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, and it's funny you posed that question, May, because I was just watching uh, a video interview yesterday from Blender Guru, and he was talking to one of the artists, uh, one of the artists at Blizzard, and interviewing him, and he had asked him kind of the same question: is a degree, really, beneficial or important for when you're going to a job? And basically, he was saying, not really. They want to see what your work is. They want to see the type of work that you do, and whether or not you're good and have this and have the skill level. Degree
Yeah.
is, it helps, but ultimately they're looking at your work. They want to see, as a storyboard artist, like you said, does your storyboards, are they more than just drawings, but are they telling a story? And are they really conveying the story? Animation, they don't care whether you got a degree. They want to see, are your animations good? Are you a good
Mhm.
modeler if you're going to be a modeler? Are you a good texture if you're, texture artist? If that's what
Mhm.
you want to do. And I think, like I said, while they're good, it's really about, developing your skill. And there's more than enough people out there that are self taught and just, put in the work to be good at it without
Yeah.
going to school. So uh, just kind of keep that in mind, May. Always work on your work. It's good that you're getting a degree, but ultimately, like I said, they're going to look at your portfolio, not your diploma. So,
Mhm.
um, like I said, if you were to kind of, well, I'm going to back up a little um, on this. We're starting. Do you feel like, coming out of the Virgin Islands, that we're starting to see more and more, like I said, just diverse content creators coming up? Do you feel like there's going to be more, creators coming from the Virgin Islands, and more creators that look like us coming up? And what are your kind of thoughts of just now the rise of more and more, you know, diverse people in different areas? Storyboard art, directors, producers, showrunners. And we are starting to see a lot more different movies and animations starting to come out. What are your kind of thoughts on just the things that are starting to happen now within the industry?
I think it's great. I mean, I would personally, I would love to see people from the Virgin Islands coming out to do some animation stuff. Um, I would also love to see people staying in the Virgin Islands while doing
Yeah, yeah,
animation stuff. I know. I mean, that's pretty much why we moved here is because I love my home island, but it was harder, if not impossible, to do what I'm doing now if I was still there
yeah,
because there's no place to kind of like grow and foster that kind of animation community. So
yeah. And I think I found that out kind of just in the diverse people I've had a chance to talk with, animators and creators over in Jamaica, over in Africa. Just like I said, the need for, schools and education. It's okay. It's a little better now because, like I said, there's online schools, but there's nothing
mhm,
that kind of replaces having, an instructor, having a school there and education there and equipment there that, makes it easier for people to really develop their skills. And I think it's going to take, individual countries really starting to put into that and really starting to get behind it to get those kind of schools and curriculums built so that you don't necessarily have to move. And like I said, you can have that personal kind of touch, in person kind of touch. Like I said, on the advent of online schools has made it easier and better, but like I said, there's still nothing quite like sitting in front of a instructor that's,
mhm.
can give you that kind of immediate feedback and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, to that point, do you think that um, that is something that you may want to do in the future, if even if it's not going back to the Virgin Islands to talk and speak and kind of do educational type of things as far as getting in front of and exposing kids to this world and opportunity that's out there?
It's something I think about sometimes. It's also something where it's like, when is it going to be? When is the right time to do that? You know, when am I officially a veteran? When am I good enough to go and do that?
Yeah,
Um, it's just something. It's something that would be really, really good and beneficial to the community. But it's also a thing where it's like, am I ready enough to do that? Like,
yeah,
when will I be ready to do that?
yeah.
So,
And it's interesting because I guess it kind of goes into just a few conversations that I've had with some of the guests that I've had on. Like I said, I've had on, you know, SCAD students that are still in school.
mhm.
And when I talk to them, they're like, well, I'm not even in the industry yet. So what do I really have to say? And it's that I had, and the only thing I can say to that is, you know, there's still always somebody that's behind you. I mean, you're
Mhm.
still always ahead of somebody in what you can say and what you can impart, even at the level that you're at. There's
Mhm.
always going to be somebody that a kid that may be sitting in his high school class not aware of this, and you're in college getting ready to graduate. So there's something that you're able to impart. There's always something that somebody is always able to impart, and you never
Mhm.
know what impression it's going to make on somebody that's a few steps behind you, just coming up. So
Right.
I would, definitely, encourage encourage you to think about that as far as, you know, I got to be 20 years a veteran or 30 years a veteran or, something like that, because I think it would be even more powerful somebody that's, your age at your level talking to a high school kid or just somebody that's further behind you that would need to hear that and just see it. So
Mhm.
definitely is something that I think is needed for more. So the ones that are in school, evasive, anybody else that's in school, like I said, you're more than qualified to speak at a high school and to people, like I said, that are two steps behind you because you've got 3 or 4 years experience. Even if that's your first year in SCAD, you still got 1 year in SCAD where you can tell what your journey is and share that with somebody that hasn't gotten to that point yet, is in junior high. So keep that in mind, evasive. Anybody else that's in school, and I try and keep that in mind when I'm talking to people that I want on as a guest. Everybody has a perspective wherever they're at on their journey, that's just as valuable, I feel, for sure. Um, Everybody, you're just joining me. We're having a fun, intense, well, I won't say intense, but fun conversation with my friend and guest, Mr. Akiel Guzman, uh, storyboard artist with Dreamworks. One final question before I let you go, Akiel. If you were able to stand in front of your much younger self, you're young, but if you were able to stand in front of yourself, say as a 10-year old, before you came over to the States, or before you even thought about, going to SCAD, what would you say to yourself?
Uh, I would say just keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. That's yeah. Just keep going.
Just keep going, just keep going. Um, Guys, another bomb I gotta drop on Just keep going. Just keep going. Um, Akiel, man, this has been fun, and like I said, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Sharing your knowledge, sharing your skills, and telling your journey, having this conversation, and being a part of the Color Emotion family. Really, I can't, thank you for connecting with me on LinkedIn. Um, I couldn't make this show what it is without the great people that I've had a chance to connect with. So, I'm so thankful that you agreed to take a little bit of your time, and share with us.
Yeah, and thank you for having me on your show.
Uh, Everybody, again, make sure that you connect with Akiel. Like I said, I really like this image too. What was this done in?
This was Photoshop.
Photoshop? Okay.
Yeah,
I like
this one
the
took a
image.
long time.
And see, you could tell, like I said, he's he's great at what he does, because even all his images that aren't necessarily storyboards, they tell a story, and they have a meaning behind them, which is what makes art such a great thing. It has You're asking yourself questions about the back story of it. So that's what I love about it. Make sure again that you connect with Akiel. Like I said, he's on Instagram. Check out a lot of his work is there. I only pulled just a tiny fraction of his artwork. So if you hop on over there, you'll get to see so much more of his work and the things that he's doing. You can also connect with him on Twitter, Akiel Art. Find him there. Connect with him on LinkedIn. That's how I did. Akiel Guzman. But all this stuff is going to be, all the notes and everything is going to be on the notes on the playlist on YouTube. So make sure that you hop on over to the YouTube channel, check it out there. Again, make sure you comment, thumbs up, share it for sure, because that's what definitely helps the traction going. But again, you can find all that information over there, and definitely make sure you reach out to him. Let him know how you like his work. Uh, Again, we're gonna throw up some. I always do that. Cover me up there. Miss May and everybody, I want to thank you so much for joining me for another fun episode. It was fun. Definitely got to have you back on, Akiel. Um, when you have time, I know Keel's just been killing it and been so incredibly busy with all the stuff that he's working on. So definitely looking forward to having you back on the show for sure. Uh, Evasive, thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody, I appreciate, as always, you joining me for the show. Akil, if you could hang out for just a little bit in the green room while I close out the show, I would definitely appreciate it. That way,
Okay.
give me a chance to close out the show and then talk to you for just a quick minute afterwards. Again, everybody, please help me thank my special guest and friend, Akiel Guzman, for being on the show. Thanks, Akiel.
Yeah.
All right. Guys and gals, man, this is, like I said, it's just been a fun episode. And like I said, I always have fun on these shows and just have such an amazing time. Appreciate you. Code Sneezes. Cod Sneezes. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. It looks like Code Sneezes, but I don't know if that's Code Sneezes or not. I appreciate that. I'm sure Akiel appreciates that as well. Make sure you get connected into the Facebook group. Akiel will be there. He's in the Facebook group. Make you a chance to connect with them. Connect with all the guests in there. Like I said, the Facebook group is growing. And a lot of the guests and my friends are there as well. So you definitely want to be a part of it. Again, it's facebook.com/groups/thecolorofmotion. Like I said, it's been one hell of a show, and I've had one hell of a time doing it for sure. Make sure that you tune in next week, because next week's going to be fun too, and I'm looking forward to that as well. My next guest and friend, Miss Angela Guyman, motion and multimedia designer extraordinaire. So looking forward to having her on, showing her amazing work and animations. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that as well. As I bring this episode to an end, again, I can't thank all of you enough for tuning in. Hope to see you next week. Make sure that you have a great week, a productive week, and be nice. Speak to somebody. You never know where the conversation may go. As always, thanks everyone for tuning in. I will see you same bat time, same bat channel next week. Cheers, everyone.